Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So Connor Hughes from SNY is reporting that the New York Jets, Joe Douglas and the Jets, would quote-unquote be first in line for Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson if he becomes available. Now, first things first, when we take a look at the current situation unfolding between Lamar and the Ravens, it's confusing, it's interesting to say the least. Personally, I thought something would have been worked out by now, and I just have a hard time believing that Baltimore, as an organization, would just allow a player, a quarterback of Lamar Jackson's caliber to walk away. Right, where both parties just go their separate ways and the Ravens have to start over and trying to find, a quarterback option. Granted, I feel like it's a lot easier these days than maybe it was 15 years ago. And Baltimore would in turn save money that they would be spending on Lamar Jackson, and they could go flip that and use that for somebody else. But beside the point, if Lamar Jackson becomes available, looking at Hughes' report here, first instant reaction, I mean, I would hope the Jets would be interested in Lamar, considering he is one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best players in the National Football League. And when I look at this Jets team, I mean, I feel like I could speak for a lot of people. They need better quarterback play. They need more quarterback production if they want to make that deep run into the playoffs. They have a lot of positions figured out. I believe they are going in the right direction. And Hughes actually went on to bring up the whole Deshaun Watson situation last offseason, where the Jets were in the mix, as tons of teams were before the allegations. But it seemed like the Jets were a little hesitant on pulling the trigger, considering the size of the deal, how many assets the Jets would actually have to give up to go land Watson, citing that the Jets needed that package. They needed those draft picks to help speed up the rebuilding process. We're sitting here an offseason later, and the Jets are in a much better situation, with guys like Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, and having Breece Hall and AVT coming back from their injuries. It's clear the Jets are in a better position today than they were a year ago. But even though Lamar Jackson is an absolutely amazing player, and I would love it if the Jets acquired him, it would be mind-blowing, right? I don't even know what I would do. There are two things that have got to be figured out. The first, the offensive line. We all, as Jets fans, we know the amount of issues on this Jets offensive line. There's been issues in run blocking, in pass protection. There's been issues with injuries. You can't really rely on many people. Nate Herbig is set to hit the open market. Connor McGovern is set to hit the open market. Dan Feeney, unrestricted free agent. There's a lot. George Fant, unrestricted free agent. What is going on with this O-line? Yeah, you have Mekhi Becton coming back. But I mean, at this point, what type of player is he even going to look like? Will he get hurt again moving forward? Max Mitchell, he's going to be back from not only just his injury, but he's dealing with the blood clot, or was dealing with the blood clots. There's a lot of question marks here. Laken Tomlinson, one of the highest paid guards in football. AVT coming back. I feel like Vera Tucker is the only guy that I could just look at on the offensive line and say, man, what a luxury, right? He could play on the left side, the right side, guard, tackle. He could do it immediately on a week-to-week basis. I feel like Vera Tucker is so valuable to this team, and obviously dealt with the triceps injury this past season. So yes, Lamar Jackson would be a humongous upgrade, but if the Jets have no plans or no resources to fix the offensive line, then I feel like the production will not mimic what Lamar was able to do at Baltimore. Point number two, we have to look at the money situation. We can't just sweep that under the rug. Lamar Jackson will probably either want a fully guaranteed deal or be the highest paid quarterback ever. Maybe even both. I think I read somewhere that Lamar turned down a 6-year, $290 million deal. If the Jets go out and acquire Lamar Jackson, the contract is going to be absolutely monumental. Again, it could literally be the biggest contract ever in football. And that is crazy to think about, right? It's definitely crazy to think about. Also considering the Jets aren't, one of these top teams in cap space. We're not in a position like Chicago and some of these other teams. There's going to have to be some cap casualties. The Jets would probably have to release some bigger names on the roster to make some room for Lamar Jackson, because I don't see Lamar coming to New York, signing this humongous deal, and then it being team friendly. I just don't really see a situation playing out like that, where Lamar maybe takes like a ton in the back end of the deal and doesn't really take a lot early on. I think Lamar wants to get paid, and deservingly so. I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks in football. So those, to me, are the two main, not issues, but just areas that the Jets have got to look at and consider when thinking about potentially acquiring a Lamar Jackson. One last thing I do want to note, is it Lamar Jackson or bust? Absolutely not. You know, the Jets can move forward next season. Say Lamar re-signs with Baltimore, say he ends up with another team outside of the Miami Dolphins. You know, I think the Jets will be the Jets. They will continue to make strides in the right direction, assuming that the roster is still built. There's still a couple holes on the roster, and we're going to talk about that as you know, the weeks and months go on here. Totally excited about it. But, you know, I look at a guy in Jimmy Garoppolo who, it just makes so much sense to me. So much sense, and you don't have to pay nearly as much as Lamar Jackson. Granted, Lamar is much better than Garoppolo, but if we're, you know, comparing pros and cons, maybe the Jets really want to invest in safety. Maybe the Jets want to take a lot of that money that they would use on Jackson and invest it into the offensive line. There's so many different scenarios here, and I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. So thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it, and as always, go Jets.